the technology issue for technology's sake. What are you going to do instructionally? What are kids going to do differently? How are your administrative structures going to be more efficient? And then it's easy.
Great.
It's easy. It's an easy sell. And
good.
That makes everybody's life a lot easier.
Do you hire yourself out?
I've been known to for the right price.
Well, let's hear from the elementary district perspective, where there's such an emphasis on the basic skills.
You know, actually, Steve, I thought you were going to say we never argue about having to replace desks, and replacing computers is kind of like replacing desks.
Exactly.
And we talk about it and think about it much the way Steve is in terms of learning. We try to demonstrate how what we do with technology, and it isn't buying technology, it's enhancing learning that we're really selling. That's the way that we find that we get the most support. We do a lot of work with Marzano's instructional strategies at work, and we've been linking that to our technology use and showing how using technology we make it even more valuable for kids and more accessible, and teachers are more effective in being and implementing best practices in the classroom. So that's one thing. I think it's always about learning. The second thing I think that we really talk about is that we're trying to connect the dots between what happens in an elementary school and then in a middle school, but then what goes on in the high school and later on college and the rest of their lives, and that you need to begin building skills, even though the technologies will be very, very different by the time they graduate from middle school when they come as a pre-K student. They're going to change so much. You need to just have it just needs to be there. It's sort of like a piece of chalk or a blackboard or an overhead projector. Those were at one time cutting-edge technologies, and we just think they're just you just use it. It's just, and it is only used because it enhances learning. It helps us to accomplish our goals, and as a result, our community will support those things because those are values they have.
Right. You're absolutely right. The next topic is professional development. We heard a little from Nancy Ann already about professional development. We'll hear more in a minute. But Joe, how about you? You know, you've done some terrific things with that by allocating that time. How do you use that for professional development?
Well, several years ago we did our first tech plan, and it was a great process. It brought about some of the changes I alluded to. But 3 years ago we were working on our second plan, and it was quite an important moment for us sometime during the creation of our second tech plan. The teachers on the committee, not the administrators, the teachers on the committee, just said, you know, I'm so tired of this. Some teachers have the skills, some teachers don't, and that the quality of a kid's experience depends on what teacher they get. This business of it's okay to not have the tech skills is just not acceptable in Avoca anymore. And it was so refreshing to have that coming from teachers and not from administrators. So we took that as a wonderful teachable moment and pounced on that because this was coming colleague to colleague. So we really got away from, we made a decision, no more of this staff development, if you build it, they will come, and then hope that they will come. No more of this optional, you know, if we have this cool class after school, that one, hopefully enough people will come. No more dangling carrots, you know, we'll give you a nice, pretty this if you come. We said, the heck with that. This is mandatory now. This is not optional. Now, I know that sounds harsh, but that's why I had my opening comment the way I had it. We could offer them mandatory in a way that wasn't harsh, because the planning time is built in, quality chunks of planning time are built in for every team every day. Here's how we work it. It's beautiful. You know, Mondays might be team planning time overview of the week. Tuesdays might be the day that the teams talk about the kids. You know how that works. But we make sure that every week, at the very most every 2 weeks, a team planning time is devoted to tech. And one of my tech facilitators will join the team, and often with the principal. And it's an hour or 45 minutes, and then it's this perfect time for staff development. And not only are they there, it's during the day, they're not tired, it's not after school, we're not dragging them there, but it's also focused and targeted to that team and what that team's teaching. And so very, very, very few days are devoted anymore where we take an institute day and we herd everybody into one place and teach a skill, or we try to it's impossible to differentiate. But when the tech professional development is built into the day and the training takes place as just part of team plan time, we have just soared in that department, and our teachers love it that way.
Thank you, Joe. Nancy Ann?
So it really is an evolution, because we're still dangling the carrot. And I mean that because we started to talk about exactly what you talked about, Joe, and we have our bargaining agreements up in 2 years. And for some of you, all of us that live in that world, we know that we have to be very strategic about going to the table and carving out those opportunities and making sure that they can be a part of working conditions. Familiar word for most superintendents. And so we want to get there. In the meantime, I've talked to you about a great way to dangle a carrot, which is create your own university, align courses to your strategic plan, give them lane advancement for taking your courses rather than sharks on video as a biology teacher, and start to focus things. That's where we've been very, very successful. I also want to say that one of the other 5 goals, besides anywhere, anytime learning, was advancing and integrating science, tech, engineering, and another one was the guaranteed, reliable, and rigorous curriculum. Why is that important? Because they complement one another. The idea that every single course is revising its curriculum guide and its common assessment simultaneously the year before the freshmen get, for example, the netbook, they're revising the curriculum guides and the common assessments to incorporate 21st century learning skill standards, but more importantly, so teachers have to get together and decide, what are we going to do with tech? How are we going to develop our course on the Moodle? And so having 2 of the 5 goals and a third even with science and tech, as where everything is being channeled right now, has provided us again with that kind of synthesis and the focus. There's also a course at Niles University for learning standards, and that's very, very important part of all of this, because what are you teaching? What is the tech for? And so offering also a course in assessment for learning that incorporates our PCA, our progress monitoring technology tool, is what's also important. And so I really appreciate what Joe said, because for those of us that haven't been doing it for as many years, we're in a different stage. And the point is you can do things, you can be creative, you can align your resources and your time, even within the constraints of collective bargaining agreement, to get to where he's at. And that really is, and I've made no bones about it within my district, that's where I expect to be in 2 years at the table.
Great. Well, look forward to hearing your report in another year or two. We're going to close now. We have about 5 minutes, and Tom and Mike, I'll let you pass the microphone back and forth, because we want to close with talking about your leadership team. And one of the themes this morning was distributed leadership, and I know your visionary leadership at the top has made an enormous difference, but I know both of you well know that you credit the other leaders. How did you identify, develop them, bring them along? Who are the key leadership members in your team? And either one of you, we have about 5 more minutes collectively, so.
Well, thanks. I'll keep it pretty simple and turn over to Mike. I think what we believe is that it's really about 2 things, people and systems. On the people end, it's the good to great stuff. Get the right people on the bus in the right seats. I do think it's that simple. Right people, talented people, competent people, people with a vision who are passionate about their area. Here, it's people passionate about technology. If I'm with a bunch of elementary people, at times you get people passionate about literacy.